S&P 500 posted its biggest advance in 2 months, erasing its loss for the week.
Now, the weakness today is being blamed once again on U.S.-China trade concerns. Bloomberg News is reporting the White House is holding off on licensing decisions for American companies to restart business with Huawei Technologies. As Bloomberg's Ian King explains, access to the Chinese market is crucial to the fortunes of many tech companies.
The longer this drags on, the worse things get. The theory is the more that the Chinese companies will start to look for alternative suppliers for what they get from the U.S.
Ian, thanks. Inflation in China moved in two different directions during July. Consumer prices rose while factory prices tumbled. Let's get more from Bloomberg Daybreak Asia anchor Doug Krisner.
Nathan and John, these readings underscore the challenge for the PBOC if it wants to boost policy stimulus. The Consumer Price Index gained 2.8% year over year, largely because of higher food prices, especially pork. However, wholesale inflation declined for the first time in 3 years, driving prices into deflation. This further dimmed the outlook for manufacturers' profits. The index of factory prices fell 0.3% year on year. I'm Doug Krisner, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, Doug, thank you. In Europe, the UK economy shrank for the first time in more than 6 years in the second quarter. Gross domestic product fell 0.2%, following a solid 0.5% advance in the previous 3 months.
Italy's sovereign bonds are tumbling in price as the government coalition teeters. The Prime Minister, Giuseppe Conte, signaled he won't leave office without a fight as his deputy, Matteo Salvini, tries to bring down the government and force a snap election.
Shares of Uber are down more than 7% in early trading. The ride-hailing company reported second quarter adjusted sales that fell short of estimates and posted a net loss of almost $5.25 billion.
And Bayer shares up 5%. Bloomberg News has learned the company is proposing to pay as much as $8 billion to settle more than 18,000 U.S. lawsuits alleging its Roundup herbicide causes cancer.
As far as the broader market, it is risk off this morning with S&P futures down 14.5 points, Dow futures down 111, NASDAQ futures down 54 points, 10-year Treasury up 3/32, the yield 1.70%, the 2-year 1.60%, a 10 basis point spread there. NYMEX crude oil up 0.4%, $52.77 a barrel, the euro at 1.1204 against the dollar. Straight ahead, the latest world and national news. This is Bloomberg.
All right, thanks, Nathan. 5:33 on Wall Street. Time for news from around the world, and we say good morning to Bloomberg's Michael Barr.
Thank you very much, John. There could be some movement on gun legislation when the Senate returns from recess. Bloomberg's Ed Baxter has the story.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer say President Donald Trump has assured them that he would look at a gun measure. And now Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says legislation look at expanded background checks and so-called red flag laws to keep firearms out of the hands of dangerous individuals will be at the top of the agenda when senators return from their August break. McConnell has opposed most gun control legislation in the past and says he and the president now have spoken and he's going to go ahead with it. In San Francisco, I'm Ed Baxter, Bloomberg Daybreak.
Just days after the mass shooting at a Walmart in El Paso, police in Missouri say they arrested a man who showed up wearing body armor and was heavily armed at a Walmart in Springfield. Lieutenant Mike Lucas of the Springfield Police says the man carrying a tactical rifle was quickly spotted and detained by an off-duty firefighter until police arrived.
I don't know how many 911 calls we got from inside the building or on the outside, but when SPD arrived here, there were a lot of people hiding outside.
Fortunately, not a shot was fired. Popular gyms Equinox and SoulCycle are still dealing with customer backlash after reports their shared owner is hosting a fundraiser for President Trump. That fundraiser is said to be today in the Hamptons. Both companies responded to calls of boycotts describing owner Stephen Ross as a passive investor. The companies say they have nothing to do with the event and do not support it. Joseph McGuire, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center, has been named by President Trump to take over as interim director of national intelligence when Dan Coats leaves next week. Trump's tweet came shortly after he announced that Sue Gordon, the deputy director of national intelligence, will resign this month along with her boss Coats. Defense Secretary Mark Esper met his South Korean counterpart today after arriving in South Korea for a 2-day trip to Seoul. During their meeting, Esper stressed denuclearization of North Korea.
As President Trump has made clear, The United States is willing to engage diplomatically with North Korea to make progress on all commitments made in the Singapore joint statement to achieve those ends.
Global news 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg, John.
Michael, thank you. Coming up on 5:36 on Wall Street. Time down for the Bloomberg NBC Sports Update. Here's John Stashower.
John, Yankee surprises on display last night in Toronto. Domingo Germán, another win, went into the season with a 2-7 Yankee record. He's 15-2. Mike Tauchman, another home run, came to the Yanks from Colorado, where he spent parts of 2 seasons hitting 153 without any homers. Gio Urshela, 2 home runs for the 2nd straight night. He had been a bit player in Cleveland and Toronto. Yanks won their 9th in a row, 12-6, and Aaron Boone was asked about Tauchman and Urshela, who have combined to drive in almost 100 runs.
They've been impact players for us, and they do it on both sides of the ball. It's come in a lot of big situations. I mean, I don't know how many more ways we can describe it. They've worked hard at getting better at their craft. They've done a good job of having a plan going into the game, and they're going out and executing, and you can see it in the confidence that they're displaying in their game at this level now.
Mets winners of 13 of 14 were off. New Met Marcus Stroman on the mound tonight at Citi Field against Washington. At MetLife, the annual Jet Giant preseason game, a couple of weeks earlier than usual. There was an hour delay during the first half due to bad weather. Giants won 31-22. The story was their rookie quarterback, Daniel Jones, came in early for Eli Manning, and in his one drive went 5 for 5, 67 yards and a touchdown for Coach Pat Shermer.
I mean, there wasn't any incompletions, I mean, you got to say it's a pretty good job, and he's been checking off the boxes as we went along, and it seems to be surprising to people outside our building. It's not to us.
The question now is not if, but when does Shermer have Jones supplant Manning as a starting QB? Troy Merritt off of 62 leads Dustin Johnson by 1. Second round today, Northern Trust Golf in Jersey City. With the Bloomberg NBC Sports Update, I'm John Stashower.
John, thanks a lot. 5:38 on Wall Street. Time now for the Tri-State Business Report. After that, we're joined live by Bloomberg's Ed Corey. Good morning, Ed.
Hi, John. The wave of luxury development in Brooklyn has hit Crown Heights. 111 Montgomery is 12 stories high. It'll contain 163 units, most of which will have 1 or 2 bedrooms. New York Times says the building was topped out over the winter. A sales gallery is now open on Franklin Avenue. Beginning in October, a new law goes into effect for most real estate closings in Connecticut. It says no one can conduct a covered closing unless that person is a licensed attorney who has not been disqualified from the practice of law. A New Jersey family plagued by a stalker's spooky letters mailed to their $1.4 million dream home in Westfield has sold the 6-bedroom Watcher house at a loss. Derek and Maria Broadus bought the 1905 Dutch Colonial in June 2014 and never moved in. They sold it to a couple for about $960,000. That's your Bloomberg Tri-State Business Report. I'm Ed Corey. John?
All right, thanks, Ed. It is 5:38 on Wall Street. Bloomberg Radio is on the air from San Francisco to New York, London to Hong Kong. Let's check in with our global news team for some of the top stories heard on our 300 affiliate radio stations around the world.
I'm Courtney Donahoe on KTRH in Houston. The International Energy Agency said the outlook for global oil demand is fragile.
I'm Steve Potusk, and on KNX in Los Angeles, we're looking at quarterly results from troubled utility PG&E.
I'm Caroline Hepker on Bloomberg DAB Digital Radio in London. We're reporting on a shrinking UK economy as Brexit uncertainty and a global slowdown weighed in the second quarter.
I'm Gina Cervetti, and on WCCO in Minneapolis, cowhides pile up and prices plummet as consumers gobble up more beef but turn away from leather.
I'm Ed Corey on KFBK in Sacramento. I'm reporting Facebook faces a lawsuit accusing it of gathering and storing biometric data without consent.
And those are some of the stories our 2,700 Bloomberg journalists and analysts are working on this morning.